Hi guys, so fitting the reversing camera. So what I've done on the back door, I've taken off all of the covers. Now if I just show you on here, I'm obviously some way in on doing this. Now this is attached up here, there's a bolt there, there's a bolt a bit further down just on this side, and then there's a couple of spline. If I show you the spline that I've been using, just there, that's the one, it's a 9mm spline. Not a Torx, it's a spline. And then what I've basically done is taken this off, and then that means you can get to the back here. And there's a couple of other little splines. There's one here, one over on the other side, just up here, and then also one just back here, just there. Then if you take that off, what that then allows you to do is pop this off. And then what I've done is in the back here, just behind there, I've just drilled a hole. If I show you in here, so I've drilled a hole there just for the cable to come through, and then just put a couple of self-tappers through. I just did a guideline through that with a very small metal drill bit, and then as you can see underneath, that's mounted there with the self-tappers. The cable's basically going to run, if you can see it here, up and along through here, and then just up. If I pull this out, I've still got it attached at the end there because I couldn't get that bolt out, so I've covered it in soundproofing, which is a bit stupid. But you can see there's a grommet just there, which I've actually, just here, I've actually pulled it off, and then I've just made a little nick in it, just so I can then run the cable through reversing camera, and I'm just going to slide that through and pop all of this back on, and then the next thing is to wire that in then into the lights. Okay, so I've fitted all of these nuts and bolts back on, and that's all on nice and tight. But what you can see here is now I've effectively got this running through from the grommet that was on the back. And so the next thing, what I've done, I've removed the rear light. There's just a couple of screws there and there. Then that whole light unit comes off, and then you just unclip off of here. Now the really cool thing is, if I show you on here, what you can do is figure out, because what we need to do is we need to get a feed for this wire, which is basically, you've obviously got the black is the earth and the red is the live. And so what I'm going to do is feed this wire all the way through here. I'll probably use a coat hanger or a bit of wire to feed it through, then into these bellows, and then through here. And then what I'm going to do is nip it back up through here into the back of the wiring. I'm going to cut into the wiring just here for this light cluster. Now yours might be different than mine. Mine's a 2005 plate T5. This one here is the reverse light. Now what we want to do is we will basically want the power to come onto the camera when it hits in reverse. If you leave it on a permanent live, then what it'll do, it will possibly drain your battery, because it'll always have your cameras being live. Whereas when you pop it in reverse, the light comes on, power goes to the camera. So what we want to do is, if you look at all of this plate, basically this plate all runs together and runs to the middle wire. If you follow this through, it's just like a map, that follows through to the brown wire, so we know that's the earth. But then the other thing we want to do is, if we look here, just there, that comes up and along and down and into here, which is that second wire there, which is that black and green wire, the second one down. That's going to be the live for my permanent, for my reverse light. So when the reverse light comes on, power should go via that wire. So I've got this in reverse, so you can see the reverse lights on. And the best way really to test this, I've got my little voltmeter down here. I'm just going to kick into those two wires that I suspected would be it. Okay, and you can see bang on, that is drawing a current, and then when we knock it out of reverse, there is no current. So we know definitely the wires we want to splice into are the green and the black one for the switchable live for the power to the reverse camera, and then also I'm going to use that as my for the black one as well. So I'll probably stick a little extension on here, because that's a little bit short. I don't think that's going to run all the way through there and then back up again. So I'll do that at this end just to make sure I've got plenty, and I'll leave the slack in the door. Okay, so we're now coming to the bit where we're going to try and feed the wire through the bellows. Now, I'm using something rather unconventional. Check this out. This is a barbecue skewer. Looks deadly, this does. And what I've done, I have, as you can see there, all the way along it, I've taped the wire that I'm going to feed through, and then I'll just show you what I'm going to do with it. Okay, so the aim of the game here really is to get this and to feed this all the way through that wire. Now I'm going to need 2 hands to work it, so I'm going to have to stop videoing here, but I'm basically just going to straighten out that pipe and feed it through. You can see I've got that fed all the way through. It's a bit fiddly. Now the main thing to try and do is grab this with the pliers and hold it, and then I'm going to yank that. You can see what I've done. I've basically fed that all the way through, and then what I can do is just pull this lead, and as I pull that through the bellows, it's going to pull this through at the back. And if you're looking in the back, excuse the cherry coke, you can see that's just going to pull as much cable as I need. And so I'm going to feed that right through, make sure there's a generous amount in the door. Again, I'm going to use this to feed through here now. And then if I can just get that there and then feed it through. So we got that cable now going through here into the bellows, which once I've spliced it into here, I'll pop that back in, but you can see it comes through these bellows and then basically runs all the way. So that pops back on there to make that nice and tight, and then this is in the door. And then what I'm going to do is splice that into here, and then I might pull some of the slack back through or just tuck it in the door. So that's a bit of a pain to do. You can see it's absolutely mullered my skewer, so don't tell the wife because I'll get in trouble for that. If you've got a coat hanger, it's the best thing to do. I did check all of our bedrooms, not a single wire coat hanger in the house. Okay guys, so I'm in the van. I've basically done a bit of a bodge wiring job just to make sure I'm 100% on all the connections, which I'll go through with you in a minute. I'm really happy. So what we'll do, we'll have a quick look at the screen. There's my radio, half hanging out, but look at this. As I pop back into reverse, boom, the camera is working. So, and then I take it out reverse and it comes out, and it'll basically do that every time I go into reverse. Now, because my van's a long wheelbase, I bought myself a 10-metre one of these. So it's got this at one end, 10 metres of cable, and then it's got the same at the other end. And what I've done, I've actually stuck it and used tape around the edge. And then what I've done, as you can see, I've got loads of excess cable. So what I'm going to do now is basically pull this excess through, which is going to thread that cable through into the interior of the car for me and make it a lot easier than trying to fit rods through. Okay, so you can see I've got the RCA leads all plugged in. This one's the power, and this one is for the feed, and this of the actual video from the camera, and this is the power that switches the camera on. So what I've done, both of these need to be connected to that brake light we were looking at. So I've separated those off and they come down into here. I've spliced them together, and then a little bit further on down the door, what I showed you earlier, I've got this wire here, which we're going to splice in at that point, which I also showed you earlier. So what we're going to do, I've got a soldering iron here, just there. We're going to connect those on like that, and then I've got some heat wrap just there, shrink wrap, which I'm going to cover over that and melt over the top, so that'll be a great connection. So I'll solder that now. Okay, so you can see I've soldered that together, and I'm going to slide that shrink wrap just over the top, just like that. And then the next thing to do is light a match, and then we're going to heat that up so that shrinks on there. I've got all those wires all tidied up now, all covered in insulation. They go through here, through the bellows, and then they come up here and they feed through. And what I've done with that extension that I've got, which is basically going to go to that green and black wire that we looked at, and the earth. Now this is already like this, so I've got the reverse, which comes on with the reverse light, and the negative, or the earth. That's because the guy that owned the van before me, he has reversing sensors fitted. So all I've got to do now is solder these two wires respectively onto there, and then thread one onto there, And then that's basically all the wiring done at the back. I'll pop these two bellows on, refit the rear light, and then all I've got to do is tidy up the wire through the cab, which will run along. I'm going to run it along the bottom end, so I've got a wire trailing at the top, and then I've just got to fit the radio. You can see they're all soldered up now, so I'll masking tape those off and then refit these grommets. Okay guys, so I'm now in the back of the van, and so I'm sat on the seat, and if you look down the back there, you can just see the passenger side quarter. And so what I've done, I've popped off these door cards, and I'm running the cable that I've just fed through. I don't know if you can see it, it's quite dark. See it there? I'm basically going to feed it through down the side of this card, all the way down, and then where it's going to go, it's going to basically come, if you see there's the sliding door, it's going to come along the ground there, all the way across. Then I'm going to run it under the edge of the step, and then it's going to go up down the side there, up into the cab. Just so you can see, the cable is run, I'm in the passenger side, it's run along here, up the side of the wheel arch, and then it pops in. I've taken the cover off the side of the dash, and it goes in through here, and the lead's popping out where the radio goes. There it is there. This lead I've got was a 10-metre lead. It was £5 off of Amazon because their normal one was too short. It's only about 4 or 5 metres long. So I've got a load of excess there. I'm going to pop a cable tie around that, and just so it keeps it all neat and tidy behind the dash. Yeah, so the red wire on my one goes to this one here, which it says there is reverse gear signal input. So that's basically going to pick up. Do you remember at the back on the other end of this, we wired it into the reverse light, and this basically is going to tell the monitor that it's gone into reverse, then hopefully switch to the camera so it works. So I'm just going to stick that on now, and then we should be almost ready to refit. It's a bit dark now, it's 20 to 6 as you can see, but we have finished. So if I pop it in reverse, you'll see this happens, and look, you can see there's a bus just coming past me there. The reversing sensor has got some funky little lights on it, so if I show you, see the reverse lights are there, but you can see it's got some lights on the back there, and then when it's knocked out of reverse, and when you come out of reverse. Okay guys, so it took a lot longer than I thought it would, but reversing camera, done.